Hey, what's up everybody, it's Sen here with another storytime video. Now, I'm actually pretty surprised at myself for wanting to play Warzone. I keep seeing clips on the internet and, I had to do it. It looked like fun. I really wanted to squad up with some friends, but that one's going to be a bit of a work in progress. Mr. Brody and I were talking about getting Modern Warfare 2 together, and I'm seeing if he legit wants to do it before I actually purchase the game, because you guys know how it's been with Call of Duty lately. So yeah, I'm not really great at the game. I haven't played Call of Duty or Warzone in quite some time. The last Call of Duty I played was Cold War, and even then I didn't play it for all that long. I'm kind of hoping the new Call of Duty sparks that flame, but honestly, after all this time, I'm not really holding my breath. If it does turn out to be good, you guys are going to be seeing a lot of COD footage on the channel. It'll be like old times. And if you're wondering why some of the footage looks weird, it's because I tried to install Warzone on an external hard drive on my PC, but I'm pretty sure the external hard drive doesn't write at a fast enough rate where the performance is good. So I had to install it on one of my internal hard drives, which I didn't want to do, which I might need to get another internal hard drive and hook that up because I run through so much space, but we'll see how things pan out. So yeah, the footage isn't gonna look great. Having Warzone on an external drive, I was struggling to get the game running smooth, but eventually I got it somewhat smooth, but the process was still pretty funny to me. Anyways, this video is not about Warzone or Call of Duty, it's about the story time at hand. This story time is related to my somewhat recent career change. I just got a different job a while ago, nothing that special in itself. Going back to my last job though, I had worked at my last job for quite some time. Originally at my last job I worked through a temp agency, but eventually did get hired on. With this job I worked night shift for quite some time, and I met a lot of cool people. In prior story times, this is actually where I met Tyson, Brody, and Jason. Eventually Brody left to go to a different job, and Jason left long before this, and to be honest, Tyson and I were getting pretty sick of night shift. It was just kind of becoming brutal on us, and I can't speak for Tyson personally, but my shift would start at 5 or 6 p.m, I can't really remember, and it would go till 4:30 a.m. I would get home at 5 a.m. and stay up till 8, which in itself isn't the brutal part of what was happening. It's just a normal 10-hour shift. But at some point, for some reason, I couldn't stop waking up at noon, no matter how late I went to bed. Sometimes I would go to bed right when I got home, sometimes I would go to bed at 10 a.m., but no matter what time I went to bed, I would just hard wake up at noon. And pretty much because I was already up, I would just go and skate, even though I was really tired. And yes, while I did get my blood flowing and would wake up a little bit because of that, it's not really safe to go skating when you're not fully awake. Even though night shift was pretty tight for a long time, Tyson and I were pretty fed up with the bullshit and want the day shift together. Literally on the same day we looked at each other and we said fuck this and put in a transfer request, because even on our days off, we were just so tired. We wanted there to be daylight when we got off shift. Also, most stores would be closed when we got off shift, and we couldn't really do anything after we got home from work. If you wanted to do anything, you had to go out of your way to wake up for it, which wasn't too bad for me because, like I said, I was waking up at 12, but it was still pretty brutal. So Tyson and I go back to days. Brody actually comes back, and it was pretty rad to have the three of us back together. Now, I can't lie to you, this job was mad chill. There's bullshit for sure, much like any other job. I, in particular, would get away with murder at this job. The work was mad easy. There were some really cool people there. If it wasn't for the reason that I'll say in a minute, I might still be there to this day. I even actually met my girlfriend there, and we've been together for almost 2 years now. For that, I will be eternally grateful to that place, but that is also for a different story time. Like I said, the work was pretty easy. Some days I'd be an order picker, and if you don't know what that is, there's shelves around the warehouse with product. You have a scanner telling you where to go and what item to grab, and you put that in a tote, you send it down a conveyor to be packed. Pretty standard. On other days, I'd be on the dock stacking boxes in a trailer all day, and honestly, that was my favorite part of the job. On the more chilled days, I would do some drawing and writing, but when it was really busy, the days would go fast because of it. What complicates things is how much work there is based around a backlog, which is based around how much people ordered. So if there wasn't anything in the backlog, they would send you home. And when you're a single man and you live with your parents, it's pretty rad actually. But when you're someone that's trying to provide and hold it down for your family, it's not so rad. For a while, it was actually pretty cool. Myself and Brody got sent home early, and a lot of times we would go golf and chill. Only thing was the wave kept staying low, and there was no work, so they would either send people home or close the warehouse down for the day. I mean, it's because there was no work to be done. I shit you not, we'd get asked if we wanted to go home at the door. And like I said, for a minute, it it was pretty cool. But when you're consistently working 2 days a week, it's no longer all that cool. And as much as I didn't want to at first, I decided I had to bounce from this place. So I put in my 2 weeks, and I was actually already in the midst of applying for my current job and getting everything on its way. My girlfriend was definitely helping me out because she already worked there, and the applications and the information they require are pretty detailed. Actually, one of the most detailed ones I've ever had to do. It was pretty tedious at some points. I was questioning if they even wanted me to work there because of how much they'd come back to me with stuff that I missed. Now, I guess I had actually worked my 2 weeks before I even fully realized it, and my orientation was still 2 weeks away, but I thought I had timed it where there's only 1 week left. So I went the following week, they asked me what I was actually doing there, and they told me that if I wanted to, I could work this week, or I could just bounce. So I called up my girl, and instead of saying my girlfriend over and over again, I'm going to give her a name, and I feel like she would appreciate this name. I'm going to call her Nobara. If you haven't already pieced together why, you'll figure it out. So I pretty much told Nobara what was going down. She said it was up to me what I wanted to do. In a way, it was all good because we wouldn't need to worry about a babysitter or anything, so me not working for a minute wasn't too big a deal. Fast forwarding to the week I'm about to start, and they actually pushed back my orientation because I was missing some information. I told Nobara, she said things were going to be a bit tight for cash, but it wasn't too big a deal. Okay, moving on to that, I made it through to my first day of orientation, and it was some generic stuff. This is what we do, this is what the company's about, these are some of our jobs, so on and so forth. Pretty easy gig to get paid for, and something the main person that was speaking said was, hey, be sure to write down this number in case anything happens where you can't make it, and we'll get you rescheduled for the same day next week. I wasn't tripping. I was like, man, nothing ever happens to me, I'll be chill, but let me still write this down just in case. So after I get done with my first day of orientation, I go to Barnes & Nobles. I was actually looking for some Jujutsu Kaisen for Nobara, do you get it now? And for myself, I was looking for Fire Force and Persona 5, which I actually haven't read any manga in a hot while. It's something I've been meaning to get back around to, maybe I'll read some today. I've just been really tired and super busy. After that, I get home, I hang out with Nobara and the kids, we have dinner, we go to bed, and the next day. Alright, so moving on to my second day of orientation. Now, I don't remember if Nobara had the day off or if she was feeling sick and she called out, but if she was feeling sick, that would kind of align with the story a bit more. I may be misremembering things a bit out of order because it was a while ago now, I was on my way to my second day of orientation. I had about an hour 30, an hour 45 minute drive, and there's a town in between where I need to go and where I live. Normally when I'm driving places, I listen to podcasts or whatever. I actually like listening to very thought-filled content and gets my brain going, kind of helps the drive go a little bit faster, and it gets my gears going for the day. Now about 15 minutes or so into the drive, I was feeling good, but at that 20-25 minute mark is when I got close to this town, and something felt a little off. And what had happened was my tire got punctured, it got popped somehow. And funnily enough, not that long ago, I got a flat on a different car before this. I'm a pretty careful driver. This was actually my second flat ever in my life. And it's weird that it happened right after I got my first one. But pretty fortunate for me, I was actually, like I said, pretty near a town that I actually used to live at. And I was actually able to pull off pretty quick into the exit and not drive on the flat tire very far. But this was pretty bad luck initially. So I don't remember if I called or messaged the number in question, but I did call out and say like, hey, funny thing, I got a flat tire, and if I do make it in, it'll be late, but I don't know if I will be able to make it into my second day of orientation, which sucks. It leaves a very bad impression. It's not fun to do. It's not fun to call out, and especially because Nobara and I kind of need money. But luckily enough, like I said, I used to live there with my parents actually, so my mom didn't have work or anything, so I called her up. It's like, oh, hey, can you meet up with me? I had a jack in my car and I did have a spare, but it's a very shitty jack meant for a different car. It's like a little small one, and this car that I was driving currently was substantially heavier, so as much as I was able to jack it up, like it was just a struggle. So I told my mom to tell my dad, put a jack in my mom's car, I'll take it, I'll jack it up, I will change out my tire, and I'll be on my merry fucking way. So I did have to wait a little bit, but my mom was there pretty quick, and she did have a jack, but it was the exact same type of jack that I had that was struggling to jack up the car, but I managed to put it under the actual suspension it was actually able to lift up that portion of the car enough in combination with the prior jack to get the spare tire on. So I get the spare tire on, told my mom I love her, I got a bounce, and she said I could keep the little jack, and I was like, I already have one, but thanks. So I guess I have 2 really shitty jacks now. But I mean, it did the job, so I guess I can't complain. So I started on my way to drive to orientation again, but I actually called my girlfriend, and I was like, oh, hey, like, I'm thinking about turning around, like, I already missed a portion of work. Pretty much told me, it was like, oh, hey, like, do whatever you want to do. I don't feel great, so I'm going to be home. So I was just like, oh, yeah, I'm going to take care of you. So I turned around and made my way home because I wanted to take care of Nobara. Eventually, yes, I did make it back to my house without getting another flat, fortunately. And I was pretty much just committed to the day to chilling out, playing video games, doing some editing, and taking care of Nobara. We just hung out, had her watch some TV, made her some food, so on and so forth, just let her lay in bed all day, hoping that she would feel better, because she did actually have work tomorrow. Fast forwarding a bit through the day, she wasn't really feeling any better. She was just kind of actually feeling worse. She told me, it's like, oh, maybe I'll be able to sleep it off and bounce back by tomorrow. Gave her some cold medicine and just hope she would feel better by tomorrow. Spoiler alert, she did not. It's very possible that she might have felt okay in the morning. She got up and ready and went out for work while I was still hanging out in bed. Now, I didn't contextualize this, or maybe I did, but now because I missed that day, I wasn't able to finish out the rest of the week. I had to go in the following week and start over again, essentially. Since I did finish my first day, I wouldn't have to go on the first day of the next week again. I wouldn't have to go on Monday, but I would have to follow up again on Tuesday. So things were getting a little tighter as far as money, but we'd be fine. So now this story becomes more about Nobara. Yes, it was very bad luck that I got a flat tire, and that kind of sucked that I had to reschedule work and everything, but it is what it is. To make it to work and not orientation, it's about an hour, maybe like 45 minutes-ish. She eventually, yes, does make it to work. She told me she got there and that she was starting to not feel good again. I told her to tough it out. If she really doesn't feel that good, see if she can go home. And yeah, but that's not what she did. She progressively felt worse and worse until she felt a stabbing pain. Now, this was getting so bad that they actually had to get an ambulance for her and get her to like an emergency care or the hospital or something. Now, we had the kids at the time, and I felt really bad that I actually wasn't able to make it to her first day being in the hospital, but there was no way I wasn't going to make it the second day because their dad was actually going to pick them up. If I hadn't made it clear already, I'm a stepdad. That's not really the point. The only point to this was that I was going to be free the next day, but I was still watching them tonight. So I told her I'd be there first thing in the morning. She makes it through the night, even though it's pretty rough, but I actually head on over there the next day. I don't know if I hit up Barnes & Noble's before. I wasn't sure if she was looking for something to read. I can't remember, but I'm pretty sure it was on the way. Eventually, I do make it on over to the hospital that she's at, which is about an hour and 35, which long drives don't really bother me. Like I said, I just kind of throw stuff on and can get through the drive pretty quick, actually. But eventually I do make it on over by her, and the hospital layout was pretty confusing. Like, you had to go down this one specific corridor, which is like very long and has like a bunch of zigs and zags, and it only has one real exit. And I did mistakenly take an employee elevator at first until I realized it wasn't going to move without a badge, and I found my way on over to the correct elevator, the guest elevator, and I did make it to her room. Now, I was going to spend the whole day with her. I brought books, I brought my Switch just in case. I think I brought her Switch, I brought chargers for her, so on and so forth. And yeah, like I said, I was going to spend the entire day with her as long as I could, as long as I was allowed in the facility. Because it didn't matter. I didn't have a babysitter I had to get back to. I didn't have, the kids weren't home, they were with their dad. So as far as I was concerned, I was going nowhere. Now, she was in rough shape. Eventually, we found out that I could be mistaken, but she was having kidney failure and eventually to a point where she went septic, and she almost died, which was pretty huge. Obviously, thinking about your significant other potentially dying is horrifying. I was at the time, and totally am still, grateful that she made out okay and that she got to the hospital in time. They were essentially just running a bunch of fluid through her, and honestly to the point where she was actually getting a little bit bloated. But all in all, she did happen to catch it on time and did make the right moves to actually get out of there and not just try to tough it out, which is great. Something similar happened to me, which is a different story time. but she was beat up. Obviously, after going septic, you're going to be in pretty rough shape. She was really tired, so I just let her sleep as much as possible, try to take care of her and get her anything she needed at the time. She was stuck to very basic foods for a while, and even then she didn't really want to eat. All in all, eventually she did recover, of course, and she's doing much better now, but there was actually a bit of a problem with one of the nurses that was attending to her. The nurse just like refused to listen. Nobara is a diabetic, and she's a very good one. She knows how to manage her numbers quite well. She knows how to take care of herself and take care of herself efficiently. But she wasn't going to let anyone be in charge of her insulin. And because if she knows how to manage it, there shouldn't be a problem. And honestly, while she was in the hospital, her numbers were the best that they've ever been. It's really hard when you're working to keep on top of your numbers because you're so focused on your actual work that it's really hard to remember to check your blood sugar every once in a while. She had to fight a little bit for her own ability to keep track of her insulin and keep track of her own numbers. They asked her and she essentially just said, no, you're not doing that. I know my body. I can keep track of it just fine, thank you. Which, I can't lie, was kind of badass. A lot of normal people would kind of get overrode. They're like, oh, I'm a doctor. Like, I know what I'm doing. But Nobara was sticking to her guns and like, oh, no, I know my body better than you do. I know how to manage my numbers better than you do. Don't act like you know me. I'm like, damn, baby. Hell yeah. But yeah, like I was saying, I don't know if it's just this area, but some nurses and stuff just refuse to listen to their patients. And when Nobara was to say something was like hurting or something, or she needed something, this nurse was like, oh, honey, you'll be fine. Like, I don't know what to do for you. I'm just like, how can you possibly say that? How can you say you don't know how to help your patient? It's one thing if your patient is a fucking asshole and they're just being like a senseless dickhead all the time, but Nobara was being totally helpful, totally understanding as much as she could, even though she was in pain constantly. And Nobara was telling the nurses what she needed very politely, actually. And yeah, she was just getting hit by this one specific nurse with the good old, oh, I don't know how to help you, like I'm sorry. It's like, what do you mean you don't know how to help her? But eventually there was a shift change and we got rid of that nurse, thankfully, and Nobara went out of her way to be like, don't let that nurse help me, like put in for her name not to come near me. She is useless. But eventually, we were very grateful to get out of there. I picked her up in the morning, got her out as fast as possible, and she was in rough shape still. When you're bedridden for essentially a week, you're going to be a lot weaker. You're not going to be able to move as fast, generally not as strong. So there's a bit of a small rehabilitation process. I know that one firsthand, but eventually she did get up and moving and grooving and back to her normal self in no time. She was out for a week on top of that, which I was pretty grateful that I did actually happen to get a flat tire because, like I said, my orientation got rescheduled and I was able to take care of Nobara for a little bit. And it was kind of nice to have some quality time off and just being able to take care of her. But I'm glad she's doing so much better now. Very happy to see where she's at. And it's like nothing ever happened. So yeah, funny how the universe can work sometimes. And much like the broken leg story, listen to your patients. Anyways, I hope you guys found this story time interesting and entertaining. If you guys want to see more, check out the rest of the channel. In the description, there's links to not just my channel, but some other stuff as well. And look forward to some new story times. I'll see you guys later. Peace.